Without further ado, I'd like to say a warm welcome to Skip Cunningham. Thanks. Thank you very much. I couldn't hear my announcement. There's so much noise going on back there amongst these legends. They haven't seen each other in years and years and years. So this is hangout time. And as you can see, we have a door here. A very thick door. We're used to curtains and being able to hear the MC or whatever. Nice to see all of you here. Boy, we filled up the room. My name is Skip Cunningham, as he said, and I'm just going to be moderator for these marvelous legends that we're going to see tonight. We're going to show some film that should excite you a lot, and then we're going to call each one of them out here, and they're going to take their seats, and you're going to be able to interact with them, ask them questions, hear their stories. This is Tapping in the Twin Cities, a Collins production. It's being held here evidently, as we know, the Walker Arts. It's new to us because we're not from Minneapolis. Quite a facility, very nice. We're going to have a big show tomorrow night. All of these guys are going to perform at O'Shaughnessy Auditorium in St. Paul. We're going to start showing this film. I'm now standing here pondering how I'm going to get them to hear me through this door. We didn't plan on this. So, without further ado, what I will do, I just figured it out. I'm going to show the film, and as the film is being shown, since I've seen it and we've edited it, I'll go back and get them at that point. So, Mr. Director, are you ready? He just said yes to me. This is my running buddy. His name is Chester Whitmore, Director Extraordinaire. And so, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to talk about a young lady who's from New York City. She's quite a dancer. She's been doing it a long time. She's somewhat of a historian herself. And for all intents and purposes, I think we like to think that she really got this tap dance genre back on the boards. We're looking at about 20 or 25 years. And she's really been at the forefront of keeping it moving. She comes out of New York City. She's had her own company, the American Dance Orchestra. They've traveled all over the world, and she's interacted with most of these legends on one occasion or another. We're going to take a look at some film. This is the one and only Brenda Bufalino. sir. That is the master of the fine art of fair dance, Brenda Bufalino. Right there. That's good. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes. Brenda Bufalino. New York City's own. Thank you, Brenda. Just take your seat with your good-looking self and enjoy the rest of your cohorts. We're going to move right along. This next master of the art of tap, definitely a legend. Considerably elder of Brenda. This is a young man, part of a duo, Cook and Brown. They were considered one of the finest, eccentric, pratfalling, comedic dance teams in the business. They're both members of the famous Copacetics, which is comprised of the late, great Honey Coles and the very much alive Charlie Atkins, Buster Brown, Ernest Brown, Billy Eckstein as an honorary member. And I even made my way through the gate on the tail end as an honorary member. But this is a film on Charles Cook. Charles Cook, and it's going to be followed by Ernest Brownie Brown, who's here with us tonight. Let's take a look. is Ernest Brown, ladies and gentlemen, that white-haired gentleman. This is the gentleman's partner who's here tonight. Ernest Brownie Brown. Bufalino, we've had Brown, and we're about to do Brown again. This young gentleman is from New York City also, and he's one of the famous copacetics. He's along with Honey Coles and Charlie Atkins, and Cook and Brown. Without further ado, let's watch Mr. Buster Brown.
He's not Kennedy.
Filling up these seats now. We're going to move on. Thank you very much. We're in 1999, the end of this century, and these gentlemen are all over 80 years old. They don't mind us saying that now. So they've been here the better part of Here we go. I've been dealing with this for the past few days. This has been too much. So they've seen the better part of this century, and this genre of entertainment has gone on for certainly all this century, and these guys are the masters of the art. In other words, they literally created the curriculum that any of us are following now. These are their steps that we do, some version of them, some way. I might mention that the copacetics emulated out of the demise of Bill Bojangles Robinson. He passed away in 1949. So Honey Coles and Buster Brown and Ernest Brown and those gentlemen got together and they decided to form a club dedicated to Bojangles called the Copacetics. This is a name, a catchphrase that he liked to use, saying everything was all right. So the club's run a long time. These guys are still around. Look at them. Huh? Still dancing too. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to see if my director is all queued up. We're going to move on. We want to get these guys in these seats as quickly as possible so that you talk to them, interact with them, ask things you might want to know about this tap dance thing. We're going to move on with another beat. Another beat. This gentleman, for all intents and purposes, maybe arguably is...
the youthful and talented Buddy Briggs.
There he is. This is Buddy Briggs. Masters of the art. Honey looks like a businessman over there. We're gonna move on. We have another film to show you coming right up. This lady, Queen of Swing. We're going into the swing dance genre, Lindy Hop, if you will. Jitterbug, out of the Savoy Ballroom in New York. This lady is a master comedienne, raconteur, entertainer, historian, author. We love her. Let's take a look at Ms. Norma Miller. Well, now these guys are going to direct this blank screen. It takes Brownie to do it. They're still queuing this one up, so every once in a while you have some glitches. Uh-oh, here we are. If you look at this band, you see some famous people. It's a swing dance, ladies and gentlemen. Jennifer! Yeah, my next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Prince. You know him? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a dear buddy of mine. His last class claim to fame, he was Red Fox's chairman of the board, so to speak, manager. We go back farther than that. He's a master tapper, slide, one of the 4 Step Brothers, one of the greatest dance teams to ever grace the TV set or the screen. He has a distinction that the Step Brothers do of, at one time, Milton Berle wouldn't do certain things without allowing them to be with him. They were the first black act to infiltrate Miami Beach. When Milton Berle started his television show, they had thought they might not have the 4 Step Brothers. And he said, well, I guess I quit and wait, because if you don't use them, you can't use me. This man is one of the famous 4 Step Brothers. Let's take a look at Mr. Prince Spencer. These are the 4 Step Brothers. That's Prince, second from the left. Yes. Now, without further ado, I love the way these guys applaud each other. They know they're all good. Can you do that, Buster, what Prince just did?
Yeah.
Could you ever do that?
No.
We're going to move on, ladies and gentlemen. These are the stars of our weekend. There's no arguably at all in presenting them. We all feel they're the top of the heap. There are a lot of movies on these guys. They're brothers. One brother taught the other brother. They just dance into our hearts, ladies and gentlemen. I don't need to tell you about these guys. You've seen a lot of publicity on them. You've seen them in movies a lot. Let's take a look at the Nicholas brothers.
Yeah.
Right here. Not now. That's my man Chester. I hope you noticed that was Dorothy Dandridge dancing with those two guys, and interestingly enough, HBO is showing a movie on her life tonight. Yeah, we go again.
Man, did she groove. I liked her when I carried her books and
Here they are. Back to earth. Jeez. Well, here they are, ladies and gentlemen.
You like that?
Our legends. Let's give them a nice round of applause. Come on. Let's take it. Well, you're going to get an opportunity to ask your questions, things you wonder about that number, like how they do it, where they do it, how they learn it.
Right now, I wonder why they do it.
Well, Harold has just used his microphone first. So we're going to get started. We're going to go over to the other side of the table and go back to our beautiful blonde there on the end. This is Miss Brenda Bufalino. And so Brenda, where'd you start? Where'd you start? How'd you start?
Oh, well, I started when I was 5 years old with my mother and my aunts and an aunt called the Strickland sisters. And I was the ingenue. Although my mother wasn't much older than I was. And then she was a lyric soprano and my aunt was a coloratura. My mother was a dramatic reader and elocutionist. And my aunt was a concert pianist and I was the dancer. But interestingly enough, I still carry on the tradition from my family, doing the monologues and vocals, and almost the same kind of show that we did when I was a kid. It's more avant-garde, that's all.
All right, very interesting. Miss Norma Miller?
Yep.
Talk to us. You got a lot to say.
Well, I came along when the fad of swing dancing was in vogue. And as a kid, living in the back of a place called the Savoy Ballroom, I had the opportunity to hear this great music. And I used to say every night I used to go to sleep to a swinging lullaby. And, just because in those days there was no air conditioning. So in the ballrooms we had these vast windows. And if a big band is playing, well, naturally the music infiltrated right into our living room. And we used to watch the shadows of the people dancing. And I thought it was so wonderful that one day I was going to go into the Savoy Ballroom and be able to dance and look as pretty as those ladies did. And that was sort of what got me started in the world of swing. And that was where I started, and that's where I am till today. Like I said, if you don't dig swing, baby, you don't dig fried chicken.
Mr. Prince Spencer, how'd you start? I know it was in Toledo, Ohio.
I started dancing in 1934-35. I won the Major Bowes Amateur Hour, and they cast me with an all-black show called Major Bowes Dixie Jubilee. And I came to Minneapolis, 1939, to Orpheum Hennepin Theater here. Later years, I did a single until about 1940. I came to California to a club called the Club Alabama. There I met the 4 stepbrothers, only there were only 3. One had been inducted to the Army, so they needed another member. So this is my chance to get into the movies. So, at first I had doubts about it, then I said, yes, I'll join it. So I joined the act, and our career kind of soared. We went with Abbott Costello first to Roxy, then to Radio City Music Hall, and I stayed with stepbrothers over almost 32 years. In fact, I left the stepbrothers early 70s, and I became Red Fox's manager. And And I stayed with Red Fox until he died October the 11th, 1991 at Paramount Studios doing the comedy show of the Royal Family. And that brings me up to date.
Mr. Buddy Briggs. Yeah, there he is. That's good. Mr. Buddy Briggs.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thanks for coming to say hello to us. And we appreciate it very much. Now, sit back and relax, because this is going to take some time. I just said that for a joke. I started dancing in the street. I could always dance. It just came naturally to me. And I think it's because my mother, she loved tap dances. She wouldn't even go out with any gentleman who couldn't dance.
Very nice one.
And she told me that when she had me, my legs were going like that. That's true. I danced for a while in the street, never thinking about money. Never giving money a thought. I just loved it. And they started throwing money. And one night I took home $20. Now, ladies and gentlemen, $20 in those days, you could buy out a store. Sugar was 5 cents a pound. You could get a loaf of bread for 6 cents. Milk was hardly anything. If you had $1, you could eat. Well, so I started to do it all the time. And there's a gentleman that saw me one night, and he asked my mother, could I dance with him? And she said, oh, where are you going to take it? He said, mostly to the dance halls. So she took a chance and let me go with him with 2 other gentlemen. Now, the other gentlemen's names were Paul White, who later became Ted Lewis' shadow, and great on his own, and Julie Miller. And he had more sense than both of us. He turned out to be a businessman. And we danced, and the name of that was pork chops, gravy, and rice, and some other staple. I forgot that. But we danced for a long time, and then I went with Lucky Roberts. He saw me dance. And he worked for all of the very rich people that were rich in those days, the Vincent Ashers, the Vanderbilts, and we worked in their homes. And that's why when I dance, I can change off into hard stomp and soft, because I worked in the rich people's homes, and they would sit around on the floor and watch me dance, so I had to dance soft. So I thank God for that, because I put that in my act now, that I can dance soft or come on down with it. And for that, I went to a lot of other places that you haven't got much time to listen to, but that's how it all started.
There it is. Mr. Ernest Brown?
Me?
I'm afraid so.
Well, I started way back there, kid. Way back. Yeah, way over there. Now, I have a brother that was in show business, and it was three boys and a lady called Grace Smith, and 4 buddies. And at first, I wasn't dancing. I was selling papers in Chicago, called the Chicago Defendant. So this lady had an act called Man in the Picks, and one of the picks left, and my mother knew her.
Excuse me, Mr. Brown. Can you explain to us what picks mean?
You should know.
But I know they know.
Yeah, well, if you don't know, I'll tell you what it was. See, at that time, black folks and little kids, they were called pickaninnies. And that's what I was, one of the pickaninnies. So I started working with them, and she called me to come and rehearse with them, and I went there and she picked me. So I started working with them, and we left, and she said, well, I got to go to California with a show called Watermelon Ideas, and that was called Mammy and the Pigs. So I said, yeah. So we went to California, and we had a band called, and a show called Fancy Marco, and we were the Pickaninnies. But we were still the star of the show. She was. And she was making all the money and we wasn't getting nothing. I mean, nothing. I couldn't even send my mother nothing. So anyway, we started there and we worked all the way from California back to Washington, from Washington back to New York. And then in New York, I hurt myself. And I left, and I left my partner there, Cook, the one you saw on the stage. So what happened, he came back to Chicago, and I was getting well then. And then later on, we had a theater called the Regal, and I went there to do a little something. So this fellow, they had a comedian there called Marshall Rogers Garvey. So he said, listen, if you can get your partner, I'll take you to Kansas City. So I said, okay, I'll do it. So I went and got Cookie, because he wasn't doing nothing. And both of us wasn't doing so I went and got him, and this comedian got him a show, and took a big show and took it up to Kansas City. But he had to give us a name, so he called it Garbage and His Two Cans. Yeah, so we went to Kansas City with that Garbage and his show, and the two cans. And we got there, and the show was stranded. And we couldn't do that. Yeah, you know how it's stranded. You couldn't get no money. Yeah, the show was stranded. So a little before they got stranded, we had a show there. We were supposed to go on, you know. So what happened? This Garbage, every time we would get ready to do a show, there wasn't enough people there. So they wrapped him all up in his arms and his head and everything. And we walked out with a few people and said, he can't make it, he has to go to the hospital. And there were enough people to do it. So that's what I mean when we say we were stranded. So we wasn't actually stranded because me and my partner Cook, what we did, we used to go around the clubs and dance and sing. We danced and sang, and people throw you money. And we made more money then than any time we ever had. So that's what happened to me. And finally, I was cooking brown instead of garbage in these two cans.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, all of these fine people have had different experiences, but when we go back that far in this genre of entertainment, it garnered a somewhat negative connotation in that they would have these names, pot, pan, and skillet for dance teams. Pork chops, and chitlin stew, and garbage can, and what, two tops, what was that? But I mean, how they would come up with that, that's just amazing. So when you see the Nicholas brothers at really, really, really top of the heap, Hollywood, or the Four Step Brothers on television with Milton Berle, people like that, that's a long way from what Ernest Brown was talking about. Now, all of these people, these legends here, have had their experiences and they reached the heights in their own way. But that's quite a story. This is part of the history of our entertainment. And now we've turned around in the latter part of this century, and all of a sudden, gentlemen, what we could, I guess, call America's folk dance. I can't think of any other. When I travel around the world, I inevitably see people doing their folk dance. The adults and the children. They do a folk dance of a sort. Now I often wonder, what's America's folk dance? When you look at the swing dancing, and then you move it on along, and you correlate it with hip-hop, breaking, whatever, it all emulates out of this tap dance, some kind of way. It has this base of African rhythms, and this American tap dance has its base of African rhythms and British Isle nuances added to it. And when you get people like these gentlemen who get very creative and they take it to another level, all of a sudden, American tap dance has become an art form. An art form. That's a long way from just dancing on the street to becoming an art form. We're going to move on. One of the people who formed the art. This is Buster Brown. Tell us about it.
I got bit by the bug in high school. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I was born in a family of 7 girls and me. My high school was Douglas High School, the same high school that the very famous man, Mr. Cecil, of Cecil and Blake, you may not know that. But anyway, they had a show up there when I went to high school. They had a show called Autumn Follies. Every autumn they would have this big show. And the show got so big that they had to take it out to the public. And on this show, I used to perform with 2 of my friends. Incidentally, we stayed together even after graduation. And went on my first show, which was called Brown Skin Models. Urban C. Millers. We got paid sometimes. Yeah. And why is that so funny? You've been giving me money. That wasn't funny. And I'd like to say that I've enjoyed every bit of this business. When they say there's no business like show business, they ain't kidding. You meet such wonderful people and you get a chance to travel free. I've been to places I never in this world would have ever been able to go to if I had to pay my own way. But thank God for show business.
Amen. Well, talking about these 2 gentlemen, and you kind of feel like you've seen their lives played before your eyes because we've seen them from children all the way through to adults, and we've looked at them a long time, and they've gotten a lot of screen time, a lot of television time, a lot of print time, so we kind of feel like we know them. And when we think of tap dance, we think of the Nicholas brothers, and we kind of think of Bojangles. Those are the kind of the standard bearers in a way. So I almost don't know where to start, so I'm going to go to Mo.
You mean Big Mo or Little Mo?
Oh, Big Mo. Well, you got to be Big Mo. Yeah. You know, I was watching, when you watch them, and when you look at this chronology of them growing up, you see how much smaller Harold was than Figure. When you see some of those screen things, and then you saw him catch up, and then neither one of them got as tall as me. I will tell you this, tap dance, dancers are definitely athletes, there's no doubt about it. But I think we can all answer to the fact that any one of these gentlemen can get up and do a time step in a minute, and it takes some energy and some exercise to do that. The average athlete, I guess, the best athlete, 35, he's on the way down. 35, he's probably decided to let it go. Michael Jordan let it go at 35. 40, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, that's stretching it, you know? We can dance till we're 80. We do. I saw Harold and Fair fight with each other backstage, and they just wanted to run up this wall. And Fair said, well, you did it in the movie, let me do it right here. They ran right up that wall, right backstage. So, Harold, tell us something that might be on your mind about your career, what interested you, and how you moved along with it.
Well, my career naturally started with my brother, but when my brother had to go into the army, I got the opportunity to go to Europe, work in France and all around Europe. And I stayed over there for about, how long? 7 years, 8 years or something like that.
Easy.
Yeah. And my brother called me on the phone, he said, listen, I was gone so long, he called, he said, come on back here, because they want us to work together again, because we had split up. So I said, well, let me talk to my lady friend and see if I So she said, yes, go ahead. We got together and did a show here.
Hollywood Palace.
Hollywood Palace
television show.
Yeah. And things started for me to working back to New York, back to America. And I began to love it again. When I first went away, I was kind of tight with it. Really, really hard on it. But after this, when I came back, and they saw me walking the street with my wife, she was French. In my head, they were looking at me, but not like they looked before. So I said, wow, well, things have changed. I said, yeah, fair enough. Then I told my brother, I said, maybe I'll stick around a little longer and see if I can make it go like you did in Europe for me as a solo. Because we were there together and we were a big success. Yeah, in Europe.
4 years. 4 years together.
And when he left, I wanted to do a single. And things were working beautifully, you know. And I got to the point where I figured I never was coming back here. But he called me and said, man, come on, man, you want to do this show for me, and we'll do this and that and that and that. So, and that's how I came back, and that's how we got back together.
And been back ever since.
You know, interestingly enough, I played Europe in 1963, and I was in this little hotel that I stayed at in Montmartre. And I went down to a jukebox. I love jazz. And I went down to the jukebox to play some music. And I looked on the music box, and you had 5 songs on the jukebox. And I said, oh, this is where he is.
Yeah.
What about you, Thayer? How, you know, what's been your involvement? You know, what did you do during that period when you weren't with your brother?
Oh, well, I tried to do a single too. And I was working with a pretty little lady from Mexico. And we called ourselves Treyard, Nicholas, and Vicky. And we worked at the Sahara Hotel. We worked there with Sophie Tucker and Paul Langer. And we were doing pretty good. And I said, wait a minute, I want to see my brother. We're doing all right with this lady. And, but she was very jealous with that Mexican Spitfire type of so I left the act. He had to leave the act. I know some of you out there, you ladies and gentlemen, want to know how did my brother and I do those things that we did in those movies. Let me tell you, we did it very carefully.
I wasn't too careful.
You were.
I was a young man. You were a young man.
We both were young.
You were a little younger than I was, but we were young men.
Wait a minute. Who Maybe I think you're right.
Yeah.
Oh. Now, my brother and I started in show business in 1930. Our parents were in show business. My mother played piano, my father played drums. And they had an orchestra in the orchestra pit at the Stanley Theater in Philadelphia. And I used to go to the theater every day and listen to them play and watch all the entertainers on stage. And just by watching, I said, gee, they're having fun up there. I'd like to be doing something like that. So I watched what they were doing. I'd go to my apartment and try to do the steps that I saw. And I was doing these steps. And I remember one evening, as I was rehearsing, my father was watching me. And he said, son, what you're doing is great. He said, but don't do what the other dancers do. Do your own thing. I said, okay, Dad. And he said, when you're performing, don't look at your feet. Look at the audience, because they're the ones you're entertaining. I said, okay, Dad. And he says, there's something you do I like very much. I said, what is that, Dad? He said, I like the way you use your hands. He said, do more of that. I said, okay, Dad. So I got together and started creating these different dances with my brother to create the Nicholas Brother style. And I taught my brother. In fact, I taught him everything he knows. I remember one evening as we were rehearsing, and my brother was having a lot of trouble with the step I was teaching him. And I said, let's do it tomorrow. You're having trouble. He said, no, I want to learn it now. I said, no, man. We'll do it tomorrow. He said, I want to learn it now. I said, oh, okay. So after 2 hours, we kept doing the step. He finally got it. He's my best pupil.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to open this up to you. I'm sure you have some questions that I couldn't possibly think of in this short period of time. We have these delightful people in front of us, and we want to give you an opportunity.
Skip.
A few minutes. Yes.
I hate to break in.
Break it.
It's not right, but I'm a big fan of the Nicholas brothers.
Okay.
Very big fan. They brought beauty to tap dancing. Just sitting here in their presence, I feel honored.
Welcome to the club.
When they walked on the stage, when I go to see them, when they walked on the stage, that was enough for me. Just walking on the stage. And while they're here, I'd like to tell them that I would always look at your mother and father. They would be in the wings, watching you, and they had big smiles. And a lot of people don't know this, but especially people here, that Harold used to imitate Calloway, Louis Armstrong. So to me, they're royalty. They're not just the Nicholas brothers or Nicholas kids. They are royalty because we learn from them.
That's right.
How to use your hands. You know? So I think it's, because maybe this might not happen no more to be answering questions and all that. I think it's right to just give them one more standing ovation.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And it is a pleasure to be here. I get a thrill each time I have a chance, we get a chance to sit down and be together with Ernest Brown, everybody over there, and Julie over here, and all. It's wonderful. Because we're so far apart now. I live in California. I live in New York.
You live in New York.
I live in California. Very seldom. Well, lately, I've had a chance to see all these great friends. And that's what they've always been. Always been to us. Good friends. Good friends. Because people who would come to me and say to me, Harold, hey, man, you're great. And I took that film with your brother and everything. And they meant it. And that's what makes me feel good.
Yeah.
These two.
Yeah, okay.
They really do that.
Well, it's so wonderful to be respected by your peers. Right? Oh, yes. Yes, we respect them, and they respect us. Oh,
You have a lot of peers who don't know you. You know me, so we used to hang out together all the time. Don't tell them that. Don't tell them that. It was nice hanging out. Yeah. At least we didn't drink, you know. All we had was Coca-Cola and looked at the girls. Mostly looked at
I say, Brown, you remember they used to call my brother the king of the chorus girls?
I had to go by a Prince Spencer, though. I had to get by you to get to the girls. We had our times.
You said the right word, you said had your time.
No, we ought to stop.
You know, I'm glad that Norma said that because then before I came up here, I told my wife that you know, I don't know if I want to go because I don't dance like I used to. She said, you don't do nothing like you used to.
This has been going on for the past couple of days, man. You should be in our hotel lobby.
Well, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being, and thank you for still being here as we are.
We love you.
We love you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming to see us and wanting to hear whatever little story that we may have to tell you, anything that we've done, little things, and that you can maybe go home, explain to your kids. Listen, I saw the Nicklin brothers and all her dancers and dancing.
Y'all with you.
With you. Yeah. So if you do that, think about us.
Yes.
Don't ever forget us.
Yeah.
All of us. All of us.
Yes.
Yeah, we love you.
If it wasn't for you, it wouldn't be us.
Right.
So we're going to call you. Oh, you come and see our show tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, I find it interesting. We're not in New York City. We're not in Paris. We're not in London. We're not in Los Angeles, California. We're not even in Chicago. We're in the middle of this country in Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota, in 1999 with the top tap dancers in the history of the world. Right here in your town, in this facility, Walker Arts, and we're all delighted to be here. Believe me.
Thank you.
So, we have a couple of minutes. Some young person who might have a question. You know, I have a question. You two gentlemen had the pleasure of working with the great Bill Bojangles Robinson.
Yes.
On many occasions. And you know, I just found out your son Tony told me that Bill Bojangles Robinson was his godfather.
Yes.
That's fantastic. How was it? How was Bill Robinson to be in his company for you at that age? Very young.
Well, we first met Bill Robinson when we were at the Cotton Club. There was a Cotton Club uptown and a Cotton Club downtown. And when we met him, it was uptown. And we were there to rehearse the new show at the Cotton Club. It was in 1932.
Oh, God.
And we had Calloway in his office. And Ernest Brown, who was the manager of the Cotton Club, saw us at the Lafayette Theater. So he invited us to come to the Cotton Club because he wanted us to be in the new show. And when we arrived there, they were rehearsing, and Duke Ellington was there, Jack Calloway, Bill Robinson, Ethel Waters, and Lena Horne was there. But at that time, she was a dancing girl in the chorus. Beautiful girl, beautiful. And so, she's still beautiful. Yeah. How old is she? 80?
Yes. About your age.
I tell you, she stays young like I do. And Herman Stark, who was the manager of the Cotton Club, became our manager. So he said, do something for everybody. So my brother got up on stage, we sang a song and danced. And after we finished, Duke Ellington said, these boys are original. And I said, thank you, Mr. Ellington. You're really original. You are original too.
back.
Me too.
All right.
Yeah, so we stayed in the Cotton Club 2 years before we went to any other place. And then after that, Sandy Rowan saw us at the Cotton Club, and he wanted us to pay a movie with Eddie Cantor called Kid Millions. Have you seen that there?
No.
Well, maybe not. It was before your time. It was made in 1934.
No, a lot before Lightning's time.
And so
They usually bring it back though later on.
they showed on television now and then. Yeah. They show all those things. And so we went out there to do this film, and with Eddie Cantor, Ann Southern, George Murphy, Ethel Merman. Do you know any of these names? Are they were big stars in those days. Oh, they were so big. Do you remember Lucille Ball? I Love Lucy. Well, Lucille Ball was in this film too, but she was one of the golden girls. Just looking beautiful. Didn't have any lines in the film. But one evening, my brother and I, and my parents and my sister, we were outside between the takes. And we saw Lucille Ball coming towards us. And she had a little dog. And as she was coming towards us, my brother looked at the little dog and said, "Ooh, that's a nice little dog." And Lucille said, "You like him?" He said, "Yes." So she gave it to him. She gave him the dog. But the funny thing about it, I had to take care of the dog. And I said to my parents, my sister and my brother, "Hey, that lady has something. I bet one day she's going to be a big star. Never dreaming she'd be a superstar." And the next time I saw her, I said, "Do you remember when we were in California and we were there doing this film, Kid Millions?" She said, "Yes, I do." And says, "Hey, you guys are still the greatest." I said, "Thank you, Lucille. You're the greatest."
You were charming. Right.
You don't want to ask a question? Somebody?
Yeah, wait. We were enjoying this repartee. Anybody have a question?
What?
Right here, right here.
I don't need the mic. I got a strong voice. I think they can all hear me. I used to be an opera singer.
Okay.
Oh, sing.
No. Not tonight.
Not tonight.
I've been asking everybody at this conference, as you know, about the women in the history of tap. And rarely, women certainly we know were in the chorus, but also there were many fine soloists as well. It was very inspiring today to see your granddaughters leading the workshop, you know, pointing perhaps toward the future of tap, we hope. But also early in the history of tap, there have been some very important women. And I'd like you to talk about some that perhaps you worked with and that were important in the art form. For instance, I think Mr. Briggs, at an early point in his career, may have worked with Alice Whitman. Is that correct? Very briefly?
I never had the pleasure of working with Mr. Whitman, but I lived with Etsy Whitman and Alice in Chicago.
Perhaps you could tell the audience who Alice Whitman is and why she's important to the dance form.
Well, first of all, you're wonderful. You're just wonderful. There's so many ladies that's been overlooked in our business. We love them, but they never got the recognition that they should have gotten. And Alice Whitman was one of them. And one night, after I was working at the Regal Theater, and you could come out backstage and walk directly across the street, and there's Alice Whitman's home. So that's what I used to do every night. And she called me in the kitchen this night, and I imbibed a little bit, and she was explaining to me about how she was making it in show business, and she never got any recognition. She said her color held her back. And I said, being the way I am, I said, "What do you mean if you can dance. She said, no, buddy. She said, when you're as light as I am, they think I'm white and I won't pass. So this is what held me back. And she brought out, and I hope you can get this. It's got to be in the archives or somewhere. And the Mirror. Walter Winchell wrote her up. And in the write-up, he said Alice Whitman is one of the greatest female tap dancers in the world. But her color held her back. Now that's Walter Winchell. And in those days, if Walter Winchell said anything, that was it. That was law. But she was a great tap dancer. She had a great son. His name was Pops Whitman. Pops and Louie.
Good dancer.
Oh,
great. Yeah.
They were excellent. Great dancers. But I won't go into what they did. You're talking about women now.
But honey, funny, we had some wonderful female tap dancers, but see, in the female gender, after a certain lifetime, we can't perform. I mean, one of the great dancers of our time, remember Juanita Pitts?
Great,
right?
Of course.
And then there was another famous woman tap dancer, Alma Turner.
Alma Turner.
Am I saying correct?
I don't
I saw her in
remember.
Did I say correct? Because I saw her in Chicago at what's the club in Chicago that Pops, the one before that Pops came from.
Grand Terrace.
The Grand Terrace. I saw Alma Turner there when the first time we went to Chicago. So there were some great women tap dancers. What about the Dawns? Remember Libby? There were three chicks that were tap dancers, and one of the girls' name was Libby, and she's right now, she's at the Senior Citizens Center. What do they call the Dawns?
Rhythm Queens.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
The Rhythm Queen. That's right. So we've had some great women tap dancers. And what about the Edwards sisters?
Yeah.
They were great tap dancers.
Yeah, they were.
And who?
Baby Edwards.
That was the Edwards sisters, right?
Yeah.
So we've had great women tap dancers.
But they never got no recognition.
But nobody got recognition in those days.
Yes,
so
they did. The men did. The men got plenty of recognition.
Well, maybe so.
Bill Robinson.
Oh, well, he was amazing. Yeah, well, I understand what you mean.
Eddie Rector.
Eddie Rector, beautiful dancer.
Right, but Eddie Rector was a dancer that we all knew.
I know.
Forum
They
was
got
on,
recognition.
ladies.
They hardly put it in the paper.
But I think this question is the female gender completely. I mean, for the most part, I couldn't even go into flat shoes until I was 35 years old. I've been performing for 25 years in high heels. So how are you going to do that and be taken seriously? We were supposed to look gorgeous, and when we weren't looking gorgeous, we either had to get married or get out of town. So that was black, white, or purple. It didn't make any difference.
Right.
Correct.
Let me finish with this. They had, Alice had her show. It was called the Whitman Sister Show. And they played what they call the chicken circuit. There was Bert Whitman, Alice Whitman, and Essie Whitman. And this is how they made their money, working all of the back rows or the boondocks or whatever you want to call them. That's how they made their money. But you went, if you worked for them, you would learn. One week you would you'd sell popcorn. Next week you'll MC. The next week you're tap dancing. Next week you're singing. And anybody that came out their school were excellent. And that's Willie Bryant, Ralph Cooper.
Absolutely.
Absolutely came from that.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, they lived happily ever after. Only they felt a little bad about it, especially Alice, not getting the recognition that she needed. But they had a beautiful home. And when you walked in it, you felt like you were in show business because they had snakeheads tucked up on the wall and everybody. So I hope I helped you a little bit with that.
You ask one question and you get a lot of answers that you might not know. Yeah. Anybody else? Somebody up near the top. Okay.
like to hear the ages of these wonderful people.
Well, we have two females here, and that's not usually. Is that okay?
No, I have no objection. I'll be 80 years old in December. I'm glad to be 80.
And I'm glad to have a role model, because I'm only going to be 62 in September, so I got to follow you.
I'm going to be 82, October the 3rd.
I'm 76. And I'm a Pisces.
I'm 83. How old are you? I don't know. I was 86 last May 17th. He was lying to me. I know you come on and tell the truth sooner or later. Thank you, folks. I've been knowing him all my life, and you didn't tell me he was that old. How old are you? Don't tell us. No, we talking about you. You.
In October.
Him.
He's talking about me.
No, him.
Well, let me finish talking. October the 20th, I'll be 85 young.
You ain't said nothing.
I don't believe that. No, I don't believe it myself.
You 85?
Yeah.
Then how old are you?
Yeah, I think it's
Hey, brother. How old are you?
me.
Yeah, you.
Let me get this over with. I'll be 78.
Huh? You'll be 78.
He shows my age better than I do. He brought you up. He brought you up, and I'll take that. All right.
78.
Well, it sounds like that was a good question. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I'd like to know if any of you folks have ever had any knee, ankle, hip surgeries. Especially y'all.
Any knee, ankle, or hip surgery?
Yeah, I broke my leg twice.
Broke his leg twice. My brother had 2 hip
replacements.
Hip replacements. And I just had what did I have?
You have a disease. He didn't know what he had.
But he just called it royalty and you did that to him.
That's all. That's how much you get. That's my best friend.
Did you have any problems at all, Buster?
Wait a minute.
Oh.
Yes?
You've had such long careers. Early on, did you think about the longevity of your career, like warming up or doing things to prepare your body before you performed?
Well, I never did warm up.
Me neither.
No, I don't.
Me
A
neither.
lot of dancers, man, tap dancers, ballet dancers, things like that. I see people getting backstage, just kicking and stretching and moving this and that. And I'll do 1 or 2 kicks and I'm through. Not too high. But at least I didn't. I I never did. My brother, did you ever warm up? Oh, always warm up.
You did? Oh, I never warmed up.
No.
Never in my life.
Oh, never
Warm up.
This one's been sick a long time.
Prince, did you warm up? Not ever, but I mean, did you warm up on a regular?
No, we had a saying in our act, after about 13 minutes long, by the time we would finish the opening, we would be warmed up. We only get through the opening about 2.5 minutes, and we were warmed up for that.
What about you, buddy?
No, I never warmed up.
You did?
I might have a glass of wine. To be truthful.
Good question. Good question. Anybody else? Yes.
You've all been through so much through all the years, and I was wondering if you had words of advice, words of wisdom that have kept you all so real and vibrant.
Because we listen to each other, that's all. We just, whatever happens, we listen, we take in. Yeah, you did this, you did that, hey, great. As long as we can give each other comments, you know, and not be jealous or anything. Compliments, comments.
Well, I think that's part of it. I think keeping good company is very important. Staying in good company.
Right.
I know as a tap dancer, our family is wonderful company.
It's just one family.
And I think that's a big part of what has sustained me over the years, especially as a tap dancer.
Well,
Very special family.
Well, take swing dancing as a case in point. Dancing, we did a lot of social dancing when I was younger. It was going into the ballroom. We had the camaraderie of listening to great music, watching the newest things and dancing. And the ballroom was part of our everyday life. So consequently, with that kind of a companionship all through life, it was something that I wanted to do all my life. And fortunately, God was good to me and allowed me to keep moving. And as long as you can keep the limbs going, you will have this kind of a setup every once in a while, this kind of a reunion that we're having here today. And it's been a marvelous feeling of realizing that all of our lives, we have lived our lives together, even though we have lived individual lives. We are separate. We don't ever see each other. Prince and I live in Las Vegas. We never see each other. We saw each other here. And what about money? We never, but because of this place, we wouldn't even know each other. But we still have that love, that camaraderie that's so vital. And like me, this is the only family that I've ever had. I've always been single all my life. The only family I have are these guys here, darn it.
Yeah. We love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a show tomorrow night. All of these gentlemen are going to participate. It's going to be at St. Catherine's College, across the river in St. Paul, O'Shaughnessy Auditorium at 8 o'clock.
Is that a Catholic? Is Catholic?
Yeah.
Why ask? I want to get some holy water. I'm serious.
Oh, we hope that you'll be there.
Yeah. We're going to have a grand time. We've been rehearsing, and interestingly enough, we have a young director by the name of Chester Whitmore. He's up in the room. He's just marvelous. This young man has just come from around the world tour. He was chosen by the Smithsonian to take, he's into quite a few things in the arts. He has an 18-piece band. He has a dance troupe, and the Smithsonian chose him to do this tour. He did probably every jazz festival in Europe this summer. He put together some of the choreography that you're going to see, well, all of the choreography you're going to see tomorrow night, except for a soloist who do our own. And he did this on the run in Washington, D.C. He, in the middle of the night, he got a banquet room and a banquet table, taped the choreography, FedExed it to everybody who needed it, took off and did what he had to do, came back to Los Angeles, did a big show at the Ford Theater there, and he's come in tonight, and he's spent all day putting this situation together, and tomorrow night you'll see the culmination of his work in this show along with these fine legends. All of us are going to perform in one way or the other. And I digress on that, not only to let you know what's going on, but we're going to probably, if we can, close off this forum, because we've got to, believe it or not, go and rehearse. They won't, but some of us will. And tonight, and get ready for a 12 o'clock rehearsal tomorrow, and do what we do in show business, and let's try to make you happy from this stage, okay? So we're going to close this forum to a halt. Thank you all for coming out. Let it be here.
I'd like to see the young lady that's an opera singer, because we didn't really get into about the women tap dancers. We really didn't get into it. There's a lot to it. We'd be here all night if we start talking about that. So please, I'd like to see you after the show. And I wanted to bring out what Skip said.
Can I add something after that, buddy?
So,
not only that, she was a famous artist in her own right. Beautiful harpist. I guess one of the few harpists I ever knew. And she and Bunny used to perform together. But there's another little story. If any of you knew anything about Amos and Andy.
Right.
Her father and his partner, Miller and Lyles, were the prototypes of that show. They literally lifted their act and put it on radio and television as Amos and Andy. And it's Charles Correll and Freeman Gosden at the time. But it was literally Miller and Lyles' act. And somewhere later on, I think they might have hired her father to do some writing for the show, right?
Yeah.
Well, we've talked so much about her, and she is here. And this is a rare, let's see if we can, before we leave, get Olivette Miller. Olivette Miller. That's her professional name.
Do anything any better, because I'm a farmer's daughter. So thank you.
Thank you, Olivette. Thank you, folks. It's been our pleasure. Thank you very much. Hope to see you tomorrow night.